Relax, Grant said, smiling like he hadn't just ruined my entire night. It's a not date. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Because guys didn't usually say stuff like that while opening car doors, remembering your favorite diner, and looking at you like they already knew what you were going to order. Especially not guys like Grant Walker. Especially not my brother's best friend. The night started with Cole throwing his keys on the kitchen counter and swearing under his breath because his boss had called him in on his only free Friday. I was sitting at his apartment island, eating cold pizza and pretending not to notice Grant leaning against the fridge in a black jacket that made him look annoyingly put together. Maze, I'm serious, Cole said, already grabbing his phone. Your car is still in the shop, right? Yeah. Grant can drop you off. My stomach did one small, stupid flip. I hated that it still happened. Grant looked over at me, calm as ever. I can. You don't have to. I know. That was the problem with Grant. He never pushed. He just made things sound easy, which somehow made them harder to say no to. Cole pointed at both of us like we were 12. No weird detours. Just take him home. Grant's mouth twitched. Yes, Dad. I hate both of you. 5 minutes later, I was in Grant's truck, the heater humming, downtown Chicago sliding past the windows in streaks of yellow light. I kept my hands in my hoodie pocket and stared straight ahead like that would stop me from noticing him. It didn't. His hand rested loosely on the wheel. His sleeves were pushed up a little. He smelled like cedar and clean laundry, which felt personally unfair. You eat dinner? He asked. I had pizza. Cold pizza doesn't count. It absolutely counts. Grant glanced at me, just for a second. You're still hungry. I turned. How would you know that? Because you always get quiet when you're hungry. That hit me in a weird place. Not huge. Not dramatic. Just enough to make my chest tighten. You noticed that? His eyes went back to the road. Sometimes. I told myself it meant nothing. Grant noticed things about people. That was his whole thing. He remembered birthdays, changed tires, fixed sinks, showed up when Cole needed help moving furniture at 9 p.m. He was just reliable. That was all. Then he pulled into a small diner off Milwaukee Avenue, instead of taking the turn toward my place. I blinked at the neon sign. This is not my apartment. Good eye. Grant. Food first. He parked before I could argue, then got out and came around to my side. I opened the door at the same time he reached for it, and for one awkward second, his hand landed over mine. Neither of us moved right away. My pulse jumped so fast it was embarrassing. Grant looked down at our hands, then at me. The corner of his mouth lifted, but softer this time. You okay? Yeah. My voice came out too quick. He let go first. Of course he did. Inside, the diner smelled like fries, coffee, and rain-soaked jackets. Grant asked for a booth by the window like he'd planned it. When I slid in, he sat across from me, then pushed the menu aside without even opening his. They still have the patty melt you like. I stared at him. I mentioned that one time. You were very passionate about it. I was not. You said it was emotionally important. I laughed before I could stop myself, and Grant smiled like he'd been waiting for it. That made my stomach do the stupid thing again. The waitress came by. Grant ordered coffee, fries for the table, and then looked at me instead of ordering for me. Like he remembered, but didn't assume. Like he was careful with it. I hated how much I liked that. When she walked away, I leaned back and tried to sound normal. You know, this feels suspiciously like a date. Grant didn't flinch. He just reached for his coffee, eyes flicking up to mine over the rim. Relax. A pause. It's a not date. I should have laughed. I did laugh, kind of. But the booth suddenly felt smaller. The window beside us reflected his face and mine together, too close in the glass, like proof of something I wasn't ready to look at directly. Right, I said. A not date. Grant's gaze stayed on me a beat longer than it needed to. Exactly. And that was the first time I realized the most dangerous part wasn't that he called it a not date. It was that, for a second, I thought he wanted me to disagree. The thing about Grant Walker was that he had been around long enough to feel normal. That was what made it dangerous. If he had been some random guy at a diner, I could have let myself overthink him without consequences. I could have gone home, stared at my ceiling, replayed the way his hand covered mine, and maybe texted a friend something stupid like, I think I just had dinner with a man who could ruin me. But Grant was not random. Grant had been in my life since I was 16 and still pretending I did not care when boys took their shirts off at summer pool parties. He was Cole's friend first. Always Cole's friend. He was the guy who showed up at our parents' house every 4th of July with a cooler under one arm and a grin like he belonged there. The guy my mom trusted to fix the porch light. The guy my dad asked about the Bears even though neither of them had anything new to say. The guy Cole called when his truck made a weird sound, when his couch needed moving, when his life needed a second pair of hands. And me? I was just Mason, Cole's little brother. The quiet one who worked at a bookstore and still got asked if he needed help carrying groceries, even though I was 24 years old. So when Grant looked across that diner booth like I was not a kid, not an obligation, not someone he was dropping off as a favor, my brain did not know where to put it. You got quiet again. His voice pulled me back. I looked down and realized I had been turning my straw wrapper into a tiny, sad rope. I am not quiet. Grant's eyebrow lifted. You absolutely are. Maybe I am just enjoying the fine dining experience. He glanced around at the cracked vinyl booth, the flickering pie display, the old guy at the counter eating pancakes like it was his last meal on earth. Yeah, 5-star atmosphere. I smiled into my coffee. It should have been easy. Joking with Grant had always been easy. That was part of the problem. Cole still thinks I am 12, I muttered. I did not mean to say it. It just came out, small and annoyed. Grant's expression shifted. Not a lot. Just enough. He worries. He babysits. He is your brother. Exactly. I leaned back, trying to laugh it off. That is his excuse for everything. Grant did not laugh with me. He picked up a fry, dipped it in ketchup, then set it down again like he forgot why he had grabbed it. For what it is worth, I do not see you that way. My chest tightened so fast I almost hated him for it. What way? His eyes met mine. Steady. Too steady. Like a kid. The diner noise seemed to drop out for a second. Plates clinked somewhere behind me. Rain tapped softly against the window. I should have made a joke. I should have said something stupid, something safe. Instead, I just stared at him like my body had forgotten how normal people worked. Grant noticed. Of course he noticed. His mouth softened at the corner. Mason. My name sounded different when he said it like that. Lower. Careful. Not dramatic. Worse. Real. I cleared my throat and grabbed a fry because apparently fries were the only thing keeping me alive. Good. Because I would make a terrible child. That got a quiet laugh out of him. But his eyes stayed on me a little too long before he looked away. Too long to be nothing. Not long enough to call out. That was Grant's specialty, making me doubt my own common sense. The waitress brought our food, and I focused way too hard on my plate. Patty melt. Extra pickles. No tomato. Exactly how I liked it. Grant must have noticed my face because he leaned back with that almost smile again. Emotionally important, right? I regret telling you anything. No, you do not. I wanted to argue. I really did. But then his knee brushed mine under the table. Barely. Probably by accident. I froze anyway. Grant did not move it back immediately. Neither did I. For a few seconds, we just sat there, eating diner food after midnight, pretending the space between us had not changed. Then his phone buzzed on the table. Cole's name flashed across the screen. Grant looked at it, then at me. Then he flipped the phone face down without answering. My stomach dropped in the worst possible way. You do not have to ignore him, I said, too fast. Grant's gaze stayed on the phone for another beat before coming back to me. I know. He will think I kidnapped you. Technically, I kidnapped you. I tried to laugh, but it came out uneven. Grant noticed that too. His voice went softer. Maze. You are allowed to enjoy dinner without feeling guilty. I looked at him. With my brother's best friend? The words landed heavier than I meant them to. Grant went still. Not completely, but enough that I saw it. His fingers paused around his coffee mug. His eyes dropped to my mouth for half a second, then back up. Maybe I imagined that. I probably imagined that. I was tired. Hungry. Emotionally compromised by melted cheese and bad lighting. Grant exhaled slowly, like he was choosing his next words very carefully. Yeah, he said at last. Even with me. And that was the moment I knew this was going to be a problem, because nothing about the way he said it sounded like a favor anymore. By the time Grant finally pulled up outside my apartment, I had convinced myself I was fine. Completely fine. Normal people got dinner with their brother's best friend. Normal people wore that man's jacket because the diner had bad heating. Normal people noticed when his voice got softer around them and did absolutely nothing about it. I was going to say thanks, get out of the truck, and never think about the word not date again. That plan lasted about 4 seconds. Hold on. Grant killed the engine before I could open the door. I looked over, confused. What? He reached into the back seat, and grabbed a folded brown paper bag. For tomorrow. I stared at it. What is that? Muffin from the diner. He handed it to me like it was no big deal. Blueberry. You always skip breakfast before your Saturday shift. My fingers closed around the bag slowly. The paper was warm against my palm. That should not have affected me. It was a muffin. A normal, harmless muffin. But my chest did that tight thing again, because Grant had not just bought me food. He had remembered a random complaint I made at Cole's place 2 weeks ago when I was half asleep on the couch. You remember too much? I said, trying to sound like I was joking. Grant's hand stayed near mine for a second too long after I took the bag. Only the important stuff. There it was. The kind of line that would have been easy if he laughed after. He did not laugh. Neither did I. The truck felt too quiet. Rain slid down the windshield in thin silver lines, blurring the streetlights outside. My apartment building was right there. I could see the front steps. Freedom, basically. All I had to do was move. Instead, I sat there holding a muffin like an idiot while Grant watched me with that careful look, like he knew I was trying to run away inside my own head. You okay? I forced a smile. You keep asking me that. You keep looking like you are about to jump out of a moving vehicle. We are parked. Barely. I laughed, and the tension cracked just enough to breathe. Then his phone buzzed again. Cole. Again. This time Grant picked it up, but he did not put it on speaker. Yeah. His eyes stayed forward while he listened. No, he is good. I am outside his place now. A pause. His jaw shifted slightly. We stopped for food. Another pause. Cole. The way he said my brother's name made my stomach tighten. Firm. A little warning in it. He is 24. He can eat dinner without a permission slip. I looked down fast, because I did not know what to do with my face. Nobody talked back to Cole for me. Not like that. Not seriously. Grant ended the call a few seconds later and set the phone in the cup holder. Sorry. You do not have to defend me. I know. His thumb brushed over the steering wheel once. I wanted to. That did it. Something inside me stopped pretending for one clean, terrifying second. Because that was not brotherly. That was not just being nice. That was not him doing Cole a favor. I swallowed. Grant. His name came out quieter than I meant it to. He turned toward me. Not all the way at first. Just enough. The space between us felt weirdly small, even with the center console there. Yeah. I should have said goodnight. I should have opened the door. I should have handed back his jacket and ended whatever this was before it became something I could not control. Instead, I said the dumbest possible thing. This was a really weird not date. Grant's mouth curved, but it was not his usual easy smile. It was slower, almost nervous. Yeah. My heart started pounding. You agree? He looked at me for a long second. Then his eyes dropped to the jacket still around my shoulders. His jacket. I think weird is one word for it. The silence after that was not awkward. That was worse. It felt honest. I gripped the paper bag tighter until it crinkled. I should go. Probably. But he did not unlock the doors right away. And I did not reach for the handle. For a second, neither of us moved. Then Grant leaned slightly across the console, not close enough to touch, just close enough to make my breath catch. His hand lifted, and I froze. But all he did was gently tug the collar of his jacket higher around my neck. It is cold. My throat went dry. Right. His fingers brushed the edge of my hoodie before he pulled back. Text me when you get inside. I almost smiled. You are literally watching me walk in. Humor me. So I got out, walked to the building, and felt his eyes on me the whole way. I made it through the front door, up one flight of stairs, into my apartment. Then I looked down at the muffin in my hand and the jacket still on my body. My phone buzzed before I could even take it off. Grant, home safe? I stared at the screen way too long. Then another message appeared. Grant, for the record, I had a good time tonight. My pulse jumped. I typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them. Finally, I sent, me too. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Grant, good. Because I was hoping the next not date would be less accidental. And that was when I stopped lying to myself, because nobody accidentally said something like that. I did not sleep much after that, which was annoying, because nothing had technically happened. Grant had taken me to a diner. Grant had bought me a muffin. Grant had called the next one a not date. That was it. That was all. Normal. Except I woke up the next morning still wearing his jacket like a complete idiot, my phone on my chest, his last message open like I was 16, and losing my mind over a crush in chemistry class. The worst part was that I could not even tell anyone. Not Cole, obviously. Not my mom. who still asked Grant if he wanted leftovers like he lived in our family group chat. Not my coworkers, because how was I supposed to explain that my brother's best friend had maybe flirted with me by purchasing baked goods? So I went to work, opened the bookstore, and spent 6 hours pretending I cared about inventory while checking my phone every time it buzzed. Around 7, right before closing, the bell over the door rang. I looked up from the register and nearly dropped the stack of receipts in my hand. Grant walked in like it was nothing. Black hoodie, jeans, damp hair from the rain. My jacket. Well, his jacket. On me. Still. His eyes moved from my face to the collar, and something about his expression changed. Not a smirk. Not teasing. Softer than that. You kept it. My face got warm immediately. I was going to give it back. I did not complain. I grabbed a bookmark from the counter and started straightening it for no reason. What are you doing here? Grant lifted one shoulder. You close at 7, right? You know my schedule now? You told me. I tell people lots of things. His mouth curved a little. I listen. That shut me up. Completely. The store was empty except for us, quiet in that after-hours way, with the streetlights glowing through the front windows and rain tapping against the glass. I should have made a joke. Instead, I stood there behind the counter, suddenly very aware of how close he was, how alone we were, how his jacket still smelled like him around my shoulders. Grant looked down at the counter, then back at me. Want help closing? You know how to close a bookstore? I can turn off lights and look intimidating near the door. Useful skill. I have many. Somehow, that made me laugh, and the tension eased just enough for me to move. We went through the little closing routine together. I counted the drawer while he walked the aisles, checking for customers who were not there. He picked up a romance paperback from a display and held it up. This one any good? I looked over. 2 people almost kissing on the cover. Of course. Put that down. Why? Because you are holding it like evidence. He turned it over, reading the back. Enemies to lovers. Fake dating. One bed. My stomach dipped at the last 2 words, which was stupid because it was a book. Just a book. Grant glanced at me like he caught it. You into fake dating stories, Mason? You into asking dangerous questions in empty bookstores? His smile faded a little. Not in a bad way. More like the joke had landed somewhere too close to the truth. He set the book down slowly. Maybe. The air changed so fast I felt it in my ribs. I turned away first, pretending to check the register screen. My fingers missed the button twice. Grant came closer, not rushing, just stepping around the counter like he belonged in the space with me. You okay? I let out a breath that was almost a laugh. You really need a new question. Answer this one then. I looked up. Big mistake. He was right there. Not touching me. Not crowding me. Just close enough that I could see the rain still caught in his hair. Was last night weird because it was me? His voice dropped. Careful. Or because it did not feel weird enough? My whole body went still. There were 100 safe answers. I found none of them. Grant watched my face, and for once, he looked a little scared too. That made everything worse. Better. I did not know. Grant. His hand lifted, slow enough that I could have stepped back. I did not. His fingers brushed the sleeve of his jacket on my arm, then slid down just enough to touch my wrist. Not grab. Not hold. Just touch. My pulse jumped under his fingertips. His eyes flicked down like he felt it. For a second, I thought he was going to take my hand. For a second, I wanted him to so badly it scared me. Then headlights swept across the front windows. A car pulled up outside. Grant pulled back right as Cole's voice came through the glass. Muffled, but unmistakable. Mason? You still in there? My heart dropped straight through the floor. Grant stepped away from me fast, but not fast enough to make it feel innocent. The bell over the door jingled. Cole walked in, shaking rain off his jacket, eyes moving from me to Grant, and then to the locked register behind us. Okay, he said slowly. Why are you 2 standing in the dark? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Grant's hands went into his pockets. Calm. Too calm. I was helping him close. Cole looked at me. Since when? I forced a laugh that sounded terrible even to me. Since tonight. Cole narrowed his eyes a little, not suspicious exactly. More confused. Right. The room went quiet. And the worst part was not that we almost got caught. It was that, 10 seconds earlier, I had almost let Grant hold my hand in the middle of my empty bookstore. And I was not sure I would have stopped him. For about 3 seconds, nobody moved. Cole stood near the front door with rain on his shoulders. Grant stood too close to the counter, and I stood there wearing Grant's jacket like evidence with sleeves hanging past my wrists. If there had been a crime scene, I would have looked guilty. You came all the way here to help him close. Cole's voice was casual, but not casual enough. Grant did not blink. I was nearby. Nearby a bookstore you have never been to. I read. Cole stared at him. You read truck manuals. Still counts. I laughed too fast. Way too fast. Cole looked at me, and I immediately pretended to find something fascinating on the register screen. My face was hot. My heartbeat was worse. Grant shifted slightly, putting a little more distance between us, and for some reason that hurt more than it should have. It was the right move. The safe move. The Cole is standing right there move. But my chest still tightened when he did it. Cole walked farther inside, glancing around the empty store. Mom called me. She said you were not answering. I pulled my phone out. 3 missed calls. 2 texts. Great. I had it on silent. Obviously. His eyes moved to the jacket. That yours? I froze. Grant answered before I could. Mine. Cole's eyebrows lifted. Just a little. Why is Mason wearing it? There it was. The question I had been trying not to think about since breakfast. Grant looked at me for half a second, and the look was quick, but I felt it everywhere. Careful. Protective. Like he was deciding how much truth was allowed in the room. He was cold last night. Cole blinked. Last night. I wanted the floor to open up. At the diner, I cut in. After you asked him to drop me off, we stopped for food. Cole turned toward Grant. You took my little brother to dinner? My jaw tightened before I could stop it. Little brother. There it was again. Grant noticed. His shoulders changed, barely. I took Mason to dinner. The difference was small. It still landed. Cole looked between us, and for the first time, something like suspicion crossed his face. Not anger. Not yet. Just a slow, uncomfortable math happening behind his eyes. Okay. He nodded once. Cool. So this is a thing now. What? My voice cracked on the word. Fantastic. Very mature. Cole shrugged, but his eyes stayed sharp. You two hanging out without telling anyone. Grant's face stayed calm, but his hands were still in his pockets. We do not need to report dinner plans. No, but it is weird. Why? That came from me. Both of them looked at me, and I almost regretted opening my mouth. Almost. But something had snapped when Cole called me little brother for the 1000th time. Maybe it was the diner. Maybe it was Grant's hand near mine in the dark. Maybe it was the fact that I was tired of everybody deciding what was normal for me. Cole frowned. Because he is Grant. And the store went quiet again. Grant did not move, but I saw his eyes soften. Like he was proud of me. Like he wished he could tell me that out loud. Cole let out a humorless little laugh. And he has known you since you were in high school. I am not in high school now. I know that. Do you? The words came out sharper than I planned. Cole's face changed. Hurt, maybe. Annoyed. Both. For a second, I felt bad. Then I remembered how many times he had made me feel like a kid in front of everyone and never noticed. Grant stepped in gently, voice low. Cole. My brother looked at him. What? Grant held his gaze. Do not talk to him like that. My stomach dropped. Not from fear this time. From the shock of being defended in a way that felt too personal to ignore. Cole stared at Grant like he had never seen him before. Since when do you care how I talk to Mason? Grant's jaw tightened. There was a pause. A dangerous one. The kind where one wrong word could change the whole night. I could see Grant almost say something. I could feel it. And I wanted him to. God, I wanted him to. Instead, he looked away first. Since always. It was a safe answer. Too safe. Cole did not look convinced, but he let it go with a short breath through his nose. Lock up. I will drive Mason home. My chest tightened. I can get myself home. Maze. Do not maze me. Grant's eyes flicked to mine. A warning, maybe. Or concern. I could not tell anymore. Cole rubbed a hand over his face, tired now. Fine. Then call me when you get there. He turned toward the door, then stopped with his hand on the handle. And Grant. Grant looked up. Cole's voice dropped. Be careful. He left before either of us could answer. The bell jingled behind him, and suddenly the store felt even quieter than before. I stood there breathing too hard, angry and embarrassed, and something else I did not want to name. Grant did not come closer this time. That was how I knew Cole's warning had worked. Mason. I shook my head. Do not. He is your brother, and you are his best friend. I know. The words tasted bitter. Grant flinched, just barely. I hated that I noticed. I hated that part of me wanted to take it back. But the distance between us was already growing, and neither of us knew how to stop it. After a moment, Grant picked his keys up from the counter. I should go. I wanted to tell him not to. Instead, I nodded. He walked to the door, then paused without turning around. Keep the jacket tonight. My throat tightened. Grant. He looked back then, and the softness in his face almost undid me. Please. Then he left, too. And for the first time since the diner, I understood the problem was not that Grant made me feel something. The problem was that everyone around us was starting to feel it too. I did not text Grant that night. He did not text me either, which was fine, mature even, healthy, except I checked my phone so many times that my lock screen started to feel judgmental. By Sunday afternoon, I had convinced myself the whole thing was over before it became anything. Cole had noticed. Grant had backed off. I had said the obvious thing out loud. You are his best friend. That should have been the end of it. Then, around 5, someone knocked on my apartment door. Not a polite tap. 2 steady knocks. The kind that already knew I was home. I opened it and forgot every speech I had practiced in my head. Grant stood there holding a paper bag from the diner. Hair messy from the wind. Dark hoodie. Tired eyes. My heart did the stupid thing immediately. Hi. Great. Beautiful opener. Grant's mouth moved like he wanted to smile, but could not quite get there. You did not answer my text. I blinked and grabbed my phone from the entry table. No notifications. Dead battery. Of course. My phone died. Convenient. I am not that dramatic. His eyes dropped to the jacket hanging on the chair behind me. His jacket. Still not returned. Could have fooled me. That almost made me laugh. Almost. Then the quiet settled between us, heavier than before. Grant lifted the bag a little. I brought food. Figured you skipped lunch. I hated that he was right. I hated more that he knew he was right. You should not be here. The words came out soft, but they landed hard. Grant's face changed. He looked down the hallway once, like he needed a second, then back at me. I know. Cole is already weird about it. I know. And you left. His eyes flicked up. There it was. The thing I had not meant to say. The thing that had been sitting under my ribs since the bookstore. Grant's hand tightened around the bag. I left because if I stayed, I was going to say something I could not take back. My throat went dry. The hallway felt too narrow, too quiet. Somewhere downstairs, a dog barked once and then stopped. What does that mean? Grant let out a slow breath, almost a laugh, except nothing about him looked amused. Mason. No, do not do that. I stepped into the hall without thinking, pulling the door mostly closed behind me. Do not say my name like it explains everything. Grant looked at me then, really looked, and for once he did not hide behind a joke. It means last night did not feel normal to me either. My chest tightened so fast I had to look away. The bookstore, the diner, the truck, the messages. You standing there in my jacket looking at me like you wanted me to say the wrong thing. I stared at him. My pulse was loud in my ears. That is not fair. No, his voice dropped. It is honest. I did not know what to do with that. Honesty was not safe. Honesty was the thing we had both been stepping around since the first not date, pretending it was just food, just rides, just timing, just Grant being Grant. He shifted closer by half a step, then stopped himself. That tiny stop hurt more than if he had stayed away completely. I tried to make it go back, he admitted. After Cole showed up, I told myself I could just be normal. Give you space. Let it pass. His eyes lowered for a second. I hated it. My breath caught. You hated giving me space? I hated pretending I wanted to. The hallway went still. I could feel my hand resting against the door behind me, the cold metal knob pressing into my palm. Grant looked nervous now. Not scared of me. Scared of what his own words were doing. I do not want to mess up your relationship with Cole. His mouth tightened. I do not want to be some guy who makes your life harder. You already are, I whispered. He winced, and I hated myself for it until I added, but not in the way you think. Grant's eyes lifted. For 1 second, everything between us softened. The tension, the guilt, the ridiculous pretending. He gave a small nod, like he was trying not to move too fast. I was not joking, he said. About what? The next not date. My stomach flipped. Grant. I know. He glanced down at the bag in his hand, then held it out carefully. I know we should slow down. I know Cole is going to have opinions. I know this is probably a terrible idea. I took the bag. Our fingers touched. Just a brush, but neither of us pulled back right away. His eyes stayed on our hands. but I do not want to go back to acting like I only see you because you are Cole's brother. My chest ached. Not sad. Too full. Too much. How do you see me? Grant looked at me like the answer was dangerous and simple at the same time. Like someone I keep making excuses to see. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Then my apartment door opened behind me. My roommate, Tyler, froze with a laundry basket under one arm, eyes moving from me to Grant to our hands still almost touching. "Oh," Tyler said slowly. "I am interrupting something extremely not normal." Grant stepped back first. I did too, face burning. Tyler looked at the diner bag in my hand, and then at Grant. "Is that emotional support dinner?" I wanted to disappear. Grant somehow smiled. Small but real. Something like that. Tyler nodded like this explained everything. "Cool. I will be in my room pretending I saw nothing." He disappeared down the hall. The door shut. Silence rushed back in. I looked at Grant. Grant looked at me. And this time, neither of us laughed it off. The next morning, Tyler looked at me over his cereal like he had been waiting his entire life for this moment. "So," he said, dragging the word out until I wanted to throw a spoon at him. "Emotional support dinner." I kept my eyes on the coffee maker. "Do not start." I am not starting. I am observing. Observe silently. Impossible. I have follow-up questions. I grabbed my mug and turned around. Tyler was sitting at the tiny kitchen table in pajama pants and an old Cubs shirt, grinning like an idiot. He had known me for 2 years. Long enough to recognize when I was lying. Long enough to know Grant showing up at our door with food was not normal. Is he the brother's best friend? My stomach dropped. "Tyler, that is a yes. It is not anything." He raised both hands. "Sure. And I am the mayor of Chicago." I should have laughed. Instead, I felt my chest tighten. Because that was the problem. The second somebody else saw it, it became real in a way I was not ready for. At least when it was just me and Grant, we could hide inside the not date joke. We could pretend dinner was dinner, texts were texts, and his fingers brushing mine in the hallway did not mean anything. But Tyler had seen our faces. He had seen the space between us. Or the lack of it. "Hey." His voice softened. "I am not judging." I looked down at my coffee. "I know. Then why do you look like someone just handed you a parking ticket and a family secret?" Because Grant was Cole's best friend. Because Cole already noticed. Because if this went wrong, it would not just be awkward for me. It would be birthdays, barbecues, group chats, holidays, my mother asking why Grant did not come around anymore. It would be Cole looking at me like I ruined one of the safest friendships in his life. I did not say all that. I just shrugged. "It is complicated." Tyler made a face. That is the most boring way to describe romantic chaos. My phone buzzed before I could answer. "Grant." My whole body reacted before my brain did, which was humiliating. Tyler saw it and smirked, but thankfully kept his mouth shut. "Grant, morning." "Grant, about last night." 2 messages. 3 words that made my stomach twist. About last night. Nobody ever said that before good news. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Another message came in. "Grant, I think we should be careful." There it was. The floor dropping out. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time. Like maybe the words would rearrange into something less painful. Tyler's smile faded. "What happened?" I locked the phone and set it face down. "Nothing. Mason." I said nothing. My voice came out sharper than I meant. Tyler went quiet. I hated that too. For the rest of the day, I moved through everything like my body was on autopilot. Work. Shelving. Customers asking for books they could not remember the titles of. My manager telling me I looked tired. I kept thinking about the hallway. Grant saying he hated pretending he wanted space. Grant saying he made excuses to see me. Grant looking at me like I mattered. And then careful. Careful meant regret. Careful meant distance dressed up as maturity. Careful meant he woke up and remembered Cole existed. By 7, I had typed and deleted 4 replies. Finally, I sent the safest one. "Mia?" "Probably." He read it almost immediately. No typing bubble. No follow-up. Just silence. That silence followed me home. It sat in my chest while I heated leftover pasta and pretended not to look at his jacket still hanging over the chair. I should have given it back. I should have never kept it. Around 9, Cole called. I almost ignored it, then answered because guilt is apparently stronger than self-respect. "You busy?" His voice sounded normal. Too normal. "Not really." "You talked to Grant today?" My hand tightened around the phone. "Why?" A pause. "He bailed on the game Sunday." That hit harder than it should have. Grant and Cole never missed Bears games together unless someone was sick or dead. Oh, he said he had stuff to do. Cole let out a short breath. He has been weird since the bookstore. I closed my eyes. Maybe he is just busy. Maybe. Cole did not sound convinced. Listen, Maze. If something is going on, just do not make it messy. My throat tightened. What does that mean? It means Grant is family. There it was. The line. Quiet. Casual. Impossible to step over without breaking something. Right, I said. Family. After we hung up, I sat there in the dark living room with the television off and Grant's jacket across from me like a dare. My phone buzzed again. Grant, I did not mean careful like that. I stared at it, heart pounding despite myself. Then another message appeared. Grant, I panicked. And then, Grant, can I see you? For a second, every hurt part of me wanted to say no, to make him feel the distance he had put there. But then I pictured his face in my hallway, nervous and honest, and nothing like the man who always had an answer for everything. I typed, I do not know if that is a good idea. The reply came fast. Grant, I know. Grant, I still want to. I looked at the jacket again, at the sleeves I had folded badly, at the collar he had touched in the truck. And that was the worst part. Even after the silence, even after the warning, even after Cole reminding me exactly why this could blow up, I still wanted to open the door if Grant knocked. I stood in front of my apartment door for almost 5 minutes before Grant even got there, which was embarrassing because I lived there. I was not waiting outside some movie theater in the rain. I was in my own hallway, barefoot, wearing sweatpants, trying to decide whether I should look casual or emotionally unavailable. I managed neither. When the knock finally came, my stomach tightened so hard I had to close my eyes for a second. 2 knocks. Same as before. Steady. Careful. I opened the door. Grant stood there with both hands in his jacket pockets, hair messed up from the wind, face tired in a way that made me forget the speech I had planned. He looked at me, then past me into the apartment, then back at me again. Tyler home. No, his throat moved. Okay. Neither of us moved. Great start. I stepped aside. Grant came in slowly, like he was afraid one wrong step would make me change my mind. The apartment was quiet except for the old heater clicking near the window. His jacket was still on the chair. Of course his eyes found it immediately. I saw the flicker in his face before he hit it. I was going to give it back. My voice sounded too flat. Grant looked at me. You do not have to do that. It is yours. I know. Another pause. He took 1 step closer, then stopped. Not close enough to touch. Close enough to make everything worse. Mason, I messed up. I looked down. Which part? The careful text. That was a pretty big part. He nodded once, accepting it. No joke. No dodge. I woke up and panicked. Because of Cole. Because of Cole. Because of you. Because for the first time in years, I looked at my phone and realized I wanted a message from someone I should not be waiting on. My chest tightened. I hated how fast that got through. I crossed my arms, mostly so I would not reach for anything. Or him. So you decided careful was easier. Grant's eyes stayed on mine. I decided if I said careful first, maybe I could pretend I was being responsible instead of scared. The honesty hit too hard. I looked away toward the window, where the city lights blurred against the glass. You made me feel stupid. His face changed. I know. I sat there all day thinking I imagined it. Again, you did not. The answer came too fast. Too sure. I turned back to him. Grant's hands were out of his pockets now, hanging at his sides like he did not know what to do with them. You did not imagine it, he repeated, quieter. The diner. The truck. The bookstore. Last night. None of it. My throat went tight. Then what is it? He let out a slow breath. Not dramatic. Just tired. Honest. I do not know what to call it yet. My heart sank before I could stop it. Grant saw it and stepped closer. But I know what it is not. I stayed still. It is not me being nice because you are Cole's brother. It is not me checking on you as a favor. It is not nothing. The room went quiet after that. The kind of quiet that makes every little movement feel loud. His thumb brushed against his own palm. Nervous. I had never noticed Grant nervous before. Not really. He always seemed like the guy who knew where to stand, what to say, how to make things easier. Right now, he looked like he was trying not to lose something he had barely admitted he wanted. Cole called me, I said. Grant's jaw tightened. What did he say? That you are family. He closed his eyes for half a second. Yeah. And you are. I know. So where does that leave me? That question came out smaller than I wanted. Grant looked at me like it hurt him. Mason. No, I shook my head. I need you to actually answer. Because I cannot keep doing this thing where you bring me food and touch my wrist and look at me like that, and then hide behind my brother when it gets real. He went still. Completely still. I had never said it that plainly. Neither of us had. My hands were shaking a little, so I tucked them under my arms and hoped he did not notice. He noticed. Of course he did. Grant moved closer, slow enough that I could step away. I did not. You are right. His voice was low. I have been hiding behind Cole. My breath caught. Why? His eyes dropped for a second, then came back to mine. Because if I admit I want this, I have to admit I have wanted it longer than I should have. Everything in me stopped. The heater clicked once. A car passed outside. Somewhere in the building, a door shut. I could not move. What? Grant's face softened, scared and relieved all at once. I did not wake up after one diner trip and suddenly see you differently. His mouth twitched without humor. That would be easier. I stared at him. Grant, I noticed you before I was allowed to. The words landed between us, quiet and impossible to take back. He swallowed. And I told myself it was nothing because you were younger, because you were Cole's brother, because it was safer to act like I only cared in the way everyone expected me to. My chest hurt. Not bad hurt. Too much hurt. And now, his eyes did not leave mine. Now I am tired of pretending dinner with you feels like a favor. For a second, I thought he might reach for me. He did not. He waited. That somehow meant more. I looked at his jacket on the chair, then at him. I am scared. Me too. Cole might hate this. He might. This could get messy. Grant nodded. Probably. I let out a shaky laugh. You are terrible at reassurance. That finally pulled a small smile from him. I am trying not to lie to you. The smile faded, and his voice got softer. But I can tell you this. I do not want to go back to normal. My pulse jumped. What do you want? He looked at me for a long second. Then, very carefully, he held out his hand. Not grabbing. Not assuming. Just offering. I want one real chance to find out what this is. I stared at his hand. All the not dates, all the almosts, all the careful little touches suddenly felt like they had been leading to this quiet room and this simple choice. My fingers slipped into his. His hand closed around mine, warm and steady, and neither of us pulled away. Grant exhaled like he had been holding his breath for days. I looked up at him. This does not fix everything. I know. His thumb moved once over my knuckles. But it feels real. My chest tightened. Yeah. The word came out barely above a whisper. It does. And for the first time, we let the silence stay without pretending it meant nothing. Grant did not stay long after that. Not because he wanted to leave. I could tell by the way his hand kept finding mine again, like he was checking if it was still allowed. But it was late, and Tyler would be back soon, and neither of us wanted our first honest moment to turn into another thing we had to explain before we understood it ourselves. So he stood by my door with one hand on the knob and the other still wrapped around mine. I should talk to Cole, he murmured. My stomach tightened. Tonight. No, his thumb moved once over my knuckles. Not tonight. I nodded, relieved and terrified at the same time. He is going to be mad. Probably. You really need better comforting skills. That got the small smile again. The real one. I will work on it. Then he looked down at our hands, and his face went quiet. But I am not going to act like this did not happen. My throat got tight. Me neither. He squeezed my hand once before letting go. Not rushed. Not guilty. Just gentle. When the door closed behind him, the apartment felt too still, but not empty. Different. Like something had finally moved into its right place, even if the rest of the room still needed adjusting. I slept with my phone on the nightstand that night instead of on my chest. Progress, I guess. The next day, Grant called Cole. I know because Cole called me 20 minutes later and opened with, "Are you out of your mind?" Honestly, I had expected worse. "Good morning to you too. Mason." His voice was tight, but underneath it, I heard something else. Fear, maybe. Confusion. The older brother version of panic. "Grant told me you two have been spending time together." I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at Grant's jacket folded over my chair. "Yeah. He said he has feelings for you." My heart knocked once hard. Hearing it from Cole made it real in a whole new way. Okay. What do you want me to say?" Cole went quiet. Then he let out a breath. "I do not know." That was the first honest thing he had said. So I gave him one back. "I like him, Cole." Silence. Heavy, but not cruel. I know this is weird. I know he's your best friend. I know you still think I am some kid who needs rides and reminders and rescuing. My voice shook a little, but I kept going. But I am not. And this is not something Grant did to me. I chose it too. Cole did not answer right away. I could picture him pacing his apartment, one hand in his hair, trying to find a rule for something that did not come with one. Finally, he muttered, I hate this. I closed my eyes. I know. I hate that it is Grant. I know. Another breath. But I do not hate you. My chest loosened so suddenly it almost hurt. I swallowed. That is a start. Do not make me regret being mature. I laughed, and this time it did not come out broken. I would never accuse you of that. Shut up. But he sounded more like my brother again. Not fully okay. Not instantly fine. Just there. That mattered. Friday night, Grant asked me to dinner. No not date. No joke to hide behind. Just a text that said, can I take you out for real? I stared at it for maybe a full minute, smiling like an idiot in the bookstore break room. Then I typed, yeah, for real. He picked me up after closing, and this time when he walked into the store, I did not panic. Not completely. He still made my stomach flip, but now I let it happen. He stood by the counter, hands in his coat pockets, looking nervous in a way I was starting to like. Ready? I grabbed my keys. Depends. Are we calling this anything weird? Grant opened the door for me, rain misting the sidewalk outside. His eyes stayed on mine, warm and steady. A date. Simple. Clear. No hiding. The word should have scared me more than it did. Instead, it settled somewhere in my chest, soft and solid. Outside, the air was cold enough that I shoved my hands into my sleeves. Grant noticed, of course. He reached for my hand this time without pretending it was an accident. Slow enough for me to say no. Obvious enough that I knew exactly what he meant. I looked at his hand, then at him. People can see. His expression did not change, but his voice softened. I know. That was all. No speech. No pressure. Just a choice laid gently between us. So I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm against the cold Chicago night, and he did not let go when we reached the corner. He did not let go when a couple passed us. He did not let go when my phone buzzed with a text from Cole that said, do not let him pick the restaurant. His taste is terrible. I laughed so hard Grant looked over, confused. I showed him the screen. He rolled his eyes, but his thumb brushed mine like he was relieved too. We ended up back at the same diner. Same cracked booth. Same bad coffee. Same fries in the middle of the table. But everything felt different because nobody was pretending it was nothing anymore. Grant slid into the booth across from me, then paused. Still emotionally important? I picked up a fry and tried not to smile too hard. Extremely. He laughed quietly, and for once, I did not look away when he did. I used to think falling for someone meant some huge moment would announce itself. Music, rain, a perfect line, something obvious enough that even I could not deny it. But with Grant, it was smaller than that. A jacket left behind. A muffin in a paper bag. A hand offered in a quiet apartment. A date finally called what it was. Maybe that was the part that made it real. We did not become brave all at once. We just stopped pretending, one small choice at a time.